Hello folks, this is Miss H once again. Today we are going to be discussing the unit circle. Let's first define the unit circle. The unit circle is a circle with one radius. That's it. If you have a circle with one radius, you know you have a unit circle. Today we're going to prove the major points on the unit circle and the major degrees. Now let's take a look. We already know most of the degrees on a circle. We just have to talk about the actual points that are labeled at first on this circle. So let's start here. I want you to understand that this is our starting point. So it's always 0 and it's always the point 1, 0. Now why is that? Because we're talking about something called a graph. And on our graphs we have X and Y. It continues on in all directions forever. So if we're talking 1, and 1 this way is a negative, and 1 that way is a negative, and 1 this way is a 1, then the point out from the circle, 1 point out from the circle, would be 1 on the X value and 0 on the Y value because we haven't moved. Okay? So that's what they're talking about when they have 1, 0. This point up here would be labeled as 0 on the X-axis and 1 on the Y-axis. And if we put it on here, our diagram, it would be 0, 1. Now, if we're going backwards from the center, we know we have a negative 1 on the X-axis, so it would be labeled negative 1, 0. That point right there. So that means on our diagram, this would be negative 1, 0. That point right there. And if you can see, it corresponds to a regular graph, a regular coordinate plane. What about here? This is 1 down on the Y-axis. So that means Y would be a negative 1. And the X value, we're not moving off of the line, the X value, we're not moving off of it. We're staying right on it. So that means the X would be 0. So we have 0, negative 1. And if you could look at it just for a second, you will see that basically the coordinate is the same. It's just that if you go from top to bottom, it becomes a negative on the bottom. Same thing in this direction. If you go from positive to negative, the 1 becomes a negative. And that's how it works. Now let's talk about the degrees itself, the 4 major degrees. If we get those 4 major degrees, it will help us out to find out the rest of the information on the unit circle. Then I have a few tricks for you later on in our discussions and videos. That should help a lot. So if this is 0, a right angle, notice it's a right angle. That's a right angle. So that must mean this will give us something that will equal 90 degrees. So from 0 to there is 90 degrees. Now let's look straight across. This is a straight line. All straight lines are how many degrees? We studied that in geometry and earlier years. 180 degrees. Beautiful. And then if we continue around, it's like we're adding angle after angle after angle. If we continue on, taking from here, that's a 90, 180. This would be 270, 270 degrees. And then all the way around the circle, if we start from here and walk all the way around the circle, would be 360 degrees, which is the same place we started, which was 0 degrees. So once again, we have 0, we have 90, we have 180, we have 270. We start on the right side with 1, 0 because it's the X-axis. We moved over 1. We didn't move up or down on the Y-axis. Same thing as we go here, here, and here. Now, let me talk about 2 things. Just an additional 2 things. We know that this is the same thing as what we call a coordinate plane. We know that. It's a graph, basically. It's just that they stop it to create this lovely circle. But if we extend the lines, it would be the same x and y axes that we've always dealt with. Good, that's the first thing. The second thing I want to talk about is how we're moving. Remember, you're starting here. You're moving what we call counterclockwise, I guess you call, in a direction towards the left around the circle. Okay? And the next thing is that we're looking for the 1 radius, 1 out. We're not looking for 5 out. We can always shrink a diagram to make it 1 radius so that it's easier to work with. There's a lot of information on the unit circle, and the unit circle will help you solve many situations. Okay? So that's very important that you understand that. Now, I want to prove these points to you. Now, how do I prove these points? By using something called the equation of a circle. I hope that you know this equation. Equation of a circle. X squared plus y squared, and I'm underlining that squared because I want you to see that, equals r squared. That's the equation of a circle. That's how we would graph a circle. That's what we would use to do many things on a circle. Now take a look at this point right here. And we're going to prove these. Now, let me see. The radius we know is 1. So if I put x squared plus y squared equals 1 squared. Now what is 1 squared? Isn't 1 squared just 1? So x squared plus y squared equals 1. So this is the formula that relates to the unit circle. That one right there. X squared plus y squared equals 1. Because 1 squared is 1. So we don't need to put 1 squared. It's going to equal 1 every time. So watch this. I'm going to take this point out. I'm going to take out the point 1, 0. 1 being my x, 0 being my y. Watch me substitute this in and prove that these points are correct. I'm going to substitute 1 where the x is. So that's 1 squared plus 0 squared. I'm substituting the y in. Equals 1. What is 1 squared? Isn't that 1 plus 0 squared is nothing. So 1 equals 1. This is correct. See? That works. That's a point on the circle. Totally correct. Remember, this is the equation of a circle, so this is a point on that circle. And I'm going to try one of the negative ones on the opposite direction. And I'm going to do that right over here. Okay? X squared plus y squared equals 1. Now, x here is a negative 1. So negative 1 plus 0 equals negative 1. Now remember, this is 1 squared. This is 0 squared, so equals 1. So now what is a negative 1 squared? Negative 1 times negative 1, isn't that 1? Negative 1 times a negative 1 is 1. Plus 0 equals 1. So guess what? That works out also. So we have now proven 2 out of the 3 points on this circle. They definitely work. Now I'm going to try this one of these. I think I'm going to do the worst one. This one on the bottom. That one on the bottom. That's the one we're going to do. So once again, x squared plus y squared equals 1. So here we go. Now our x is 0. See, 0, comma 1. Our x is 0. Our y is 1. So here we go. 0 squared plus 1 squared. Let's put them in parentheses. It looks nicer. Equals 1. So 0 squared is 0 plus 1 squared is 1 equals 1. 1 equals 1. That proves. And vice versa for the top would also prove. Okay, so this was just a way of proving that these points are definitely working on this circle. They definitely work because of this equation of a circle. I'm just going to block them in for you. This proves that the coordinate plane helps us with finding our points. Okay, and we know the unit circle already, or the circle in degrees already, because we have studied that previously. That's it for this video. The next video, we're going to talk specifically about more of the degrees on the circle. That's all for now. Video 1.